Hello everybody, and welcome to the YouTube guides for the tutorial suite produced in AutoCAD. These guides will focus on AutoCAD 2012. I suppose most of the commands are going to be the same for 2013 and 2011, but I know a few of them are drastically different. Array is one that springs to mind. But we won't be on Array yet. We're starting with the very first suite, Navigation. Fire this up and give it a crack. I'm going to run these tutorials with the ribbon closed, just so that there's a bit more space on the YouTube video for you to see. You can leave the ribbon open if you'd prefer, if you can spare the resolution. In my case, I don't need it, and it's good to keep it closed. I think it keeps you in the habit of using keyboard commands and speeds up your work. Well, I'll take it that you're able to read this panel. In case you're not entirely able to see what it's asking you to do, we're entering PAN, P-A-N, with the keyboard and hitting space or enter. Then with the left click, you can click and drag the screen around now. Maybe if you have this tool off, you might not see PAN show up next to the cursor, but it will show up down here in the command bar. We'll come to the tools down the bottom a bit later. So dynamic input is one that I like to have on, but as I said, we'll come to it later. So with dynamic input off, PAN will show up in the bottom left. You can click and drag your way over to the next panel. So this is just telling us that when we want to stop panning, if I wanted to enter a different command like line, I can't. I'm hitting keys at the moment, nothing's coming up. That's because PAN is still running, and it even tells you in the bottom left of the screen, press escape or enter to exit. So I want to exit this current command. I need to stop panning now, and now this will free me up to type other commands. Getting back to the PAN command, I typed it out at full length before PAN. It actually isn't necessary. If you just type P, you can see that P, AutoCAD knows that is the first command it thinks when it sees the letter P. Text message. First command it thinks of when it sees the input P is the PAN command. It's one of the most common used. So we can just do that as well. Press P, hit spacebar or enter, and left click to drag across to the next screen. I chose PAN as an example because it's the first thing you need to do, but personally I never use the command PAN. Whenever I'm wanting to pan around, I use the middle mouse click. If you don't have a mouse, if you're using a touchpad, just don't. It will really slow you down. It'll hurt your head to try and navigate around the page. I know a lot of people, if they've got a laptop, prefer not to carry a mouse or even a charger. If it's like a notebook or something, they want to just have the lightweight unit all day. But for this class, or for just AutoCAD in general, you need a mouse. You really do. And specifically one with a scroll wheel, so that you can click and drag to pan around. So yeah, this is just telling us that we can save time without typing PAN. This is another handy thing. AutoCAD, when no command is entered, if you just hit spacebar with nothing in it, will repeat the last command. So the last command I entered was PAN here, and when I just hit spacebar, it comes back to PAN. This is particularly handy when you're performing copy operations. You need to perform multiple copies or multiple trims. You can just keep hitting spacebar and reselecting objects and so on. Okay, zoom in AutoCAD can be carried out with Z, the Z command. I'll turn this back on so we can see it next to the cursor. So Z there will allow me to zoom, and there are a few different options. I can zoom with a box. I can zoom in on objects with O. If I take ZO, I can go in on just say those objects down there. And I can also use the scroll wheel. So the panel tells us to zoom in on this little pink line. When we zoom in, we find that it's not actually a line, it's some text. And it's just telling us that, yep, we can read this, we've zoomed in far enough. Let's head back out and learn about something else. Regen is a command that how can I describe this best? It doesn't often come up that you'll need to use it, but when you do need to use it, just keep in mind that the drawing space has edges, I suppose. There's parts of the drawing space that you can't go any further out of, and if you try and go too far, you'll need to regenerate the space. Mostly, I think there's now auto regen with auto regen or regen auto maybe. Yes, regen auto. I think that is by default on, so it's not actually often that you will need to manually regenerate your drawing space. But to give you an example, let's see if I type I'll type array out something like that, and I'll get another array out here. So these points should converge eventually, but you can see now I'm trying to pan up further and I can't pan any further. So this is where I need to use regen. If I hit RE for regenerate, now I can keep panning. It's regenerated the drawing space. Eventually I can't go any further. Regenerate. I can go again. And there we go, now I've found the intersection of those points. What a waste of time that was. Yeah, just to give you a feel for what regenerate does. Oops. I'll get rid of that. Okay. So that's regen. You'll see it comes up occasionally that you'll need to regenerate your drawing space. This panel here is just telling us that if we were to do something silly like I'm going to click this button up here, this top center thing with nothing selected, and what that's going to do is it's going to zoom out and look at every object in this drawing space at once. And you'll be able to see that CAD really doesn't like that. It's not too bad, I suppose. Depending on how many objects you've got drawn and what kind of objects they are, I think 3D images and splines, when you come to splines later, you'll see that AutoCAD finds those harder to deal with and great distances. But yeah, it doesn't really like zooming out so much. If I were to try some operation with all of these objects, like I want to copy them all, it starts to chug around a bit. And I'm running this on a pretty strong computer, so if you're using the university computers, you might want to be cautious with how much you stress out CAD in case you make it crash. But with 2012, AutoCAD 2012 is actually very good at recovering drawings. If it crashes at any point, it pretty much saves everything you were doing up to that last second, so that's something to be thankful for. They get recovery drawings that work really well. Even if you do crash, it won't cost you that much time. In the past it was a lot worse. Okay, these drawing tools are just the tools down here. So I've tried to just have a little representation of what they all look like, and a bit of an explanation in here of what they all do. It's a good idea to, at the very least, read these blue tools, because the blue tools are the ones we're going to use quite frequently. As for the other commands, it's important to know about them. Some people may prefer to have infer constraints on. There are some times when snap mode is something that you want to run. We will also use line weight. We'll come into line weight a lot. I prefer to use the LW command rather than the tools down there, but there's no reason that you couldn't click line weight. Yeah, so have a read of these just in your own time and see what they all do. And when you are reading through them, have a play around, like turn them on and see what it means. What does orthogonal mean? I'll turn it on and I'll see. Okay, I can only draw along the x and y axis. That's what orthogonal is talking about. So I can't even try to put a point out here. It won't let me. Yeah, just have a play around till you get to know what they're all like. Layers. I'll turn that off so we can see. So this this panel here is just telling us about the layer menu, and you can see that the layer menu can be opened with the command LA. What I like to do, and what I've said here is good practice. Well, I think when you first type layer on a new computer, it'll pop up something like that. So you'll say LA, and it pops up there in the middle of your screen, taking up lots of room. You can grab this grey bar and you can sort of put it wherever you want. You can put it up the top of the screen if you want, or over to the right. I like to keep properties on the right, so I'm going to put layers on the left. And see, once I drag it over there and let it go, it snaps on. Now, if I want to set this to auto hide, the way I've got properties to auto hide, because if they're both in there, I don't have much drawing space now. And then with the ribbon even, if I open the ribbon now, I've got even less drawing space. So it's important to keep these things minimized. So you can see this little, I'll show that again, this little button here sets the layer window to auto hide. So that's what we're going to do, set that to auto hide. That one's on auto hide as well. And if we need the layer menu for anything, you can just drag over and it pops up. So then what do I need? I want to make a change to this layer. I want to change the color on that layer. So this panel gives you the option or the suggestion that you could try to turn off the hints layer. How do we turn off a layer? Well, the layer stays there, but if we hit this little light bulb, if I got shift pressed or something, don't know why it's selecting so many layers, but anyway, if we hit this little light bulb, and assuming I haven't just crashed the program, yeah, okay, so I've turned off both of those layers. Clicking the little light bulb there, you can see that the pink line for the hints layer is turning on and off. You can also see this little lock. This is telling us that the hints layer has been locked. And if I click it a few times, you can see that a layer which is locked goes sort of grey. It's a bit darkened out, just to tell you that it can't be moved. What else could we do? We could change the color of one of these layers as well. So these colorful boxes here, so if I want to change the layer of this HUD, which is the the layer with all the text on it, I can click the colorful little box and make it some really annoying color like orange or yellow. Oh, excuse me. So that's layers, basically, just LA for the layer menu. Layers become more important as you keep working. I've tried to keep all of the objects in this guide on different layers, just as a best practice sort of thing. That way, if I ever needed to change the line thickness or the line type of all of the framework, I wouldn't have to go through and select every one individually. I could just go onto the framework layer and make a change there. But we'll talk about changing line types and line weights on layers in a later tutorial. That yellow is really annoying me. I'm going to change it back. Right. So this just talks about selection in AutoCAD. You can see that if you select an object, think about if you've ever used Excel or a program like that, you can select a cell with a couple of clicks, but as soon as you click a different cell, unless you're holding Control or Shift, it will unselect your first object. Well, AutoCAD doesn't work like that. AutoCAD will keep selecting objects so long as you keep clicking them. And as the panel says, you can unselect an object, deselect, by holding Shift. So if I'm holding Shift now on the keyboard, if I select this circle, it goes away. Whereas if I can keep selecting it over and over again without holding Shift, and it will stay there. If I decide that I don't want to select any of these objects, or I want to retry my selection, I can hit Escape, and it will cancel that selection. And that's really all there is to it. Yeah, so selecting and Shift selecting will unselect objects. So once you've figured out the way that works, you can move on to the next panel. Now this panel is actually quite important. It talks about the way that if I click and drag, that is, I can just click once and then drag the mouse around, or I can click and hold the click and drag. You can decide for yourself which method you prefer. But basically going left, clicking and going left will produce a green box. Clicking and going right will produce a blue box. And the two different boxes work in different ways. So we have the blue box selection for this panel. I'll just show you how it works, for example. So even though in this case I'm touching the diamond, when I click, I don't select the diamond, I only selected the circle, because the blue box only selects objects which fall entirely inside it. If I started much bigger, then I'd select everything. But in this case I'm only selecting the circle because the circle is the only thing that falls completely inside. I suppose I'm selecting the text as well, because the text also falls inside the circle, inside the box. The green box, however, works in a different way. It selects everything that you touch in only one place, only touches one edge of the thing, nothing has to be inside, it just works fine like that. So there's a few nuances here. When you practice using the selection boxes, if I just wanted to select this circle, I could do it like that. If I wanted to select this box here, I could make a quick mouse movement like that, or I could try and go around it, there's only one object here, so it's easy enough to just click. But when you've got lots of objects, if I wanted to select these two or these three, using the selection boxes speeds you up a lot. Whereas trying to individually select every object that you wanted to move takes a bit of time, and then you might have to unselect one and so on. But yeah, you'll practice with that and you'll get a lot better. Okay, that's the end of the panels in this document. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.